Okay. We only have 15 minutes. I don't have the luxury of the previous presenter, so I'm going to take about 9-10 minutes presenting and leave a few minutes for questions and answers. If I can have the next slide. Mehran Khorsandi, I'm an interventional cardiologist, to be a graduate of University of Pennsylvania. Have been on the West Coast for the last 30 some odd years, and I have implanted about 20,000 coronary stents. I'm a practicing cardiologist who's experienced in the field. I'm going to tell you about a technology which is much further ahead. Further ahead than the previous presenters. We're about to start our human trials in the United States. And we have a technology which addresses 1/5 of all coronary angioplasties. As it turns out, the disease happens to be at the branch points in the arteries that feed the heart muscle, and the branch points, so-called bifurcations, don't have a dedicated treatment. And as such, the restenosis rate at branch points are 4 to 5 times higher than non-branch points when we try to fix them. If the branch points are large vessels, we send them to open heart surgery. I'll go over all of that. And we happen to be local. We have our clean rooms where we put the final device together in Livermore, right next to the Lawrence Livermore labs. Here's our story. Advanced Bifurcation Systems is based in Livermore, California. We've developed a platform delivery technology to treat coronary bifurcation lesions, a coronary disease currently treated with complicated and not reliable percutaneous coronary intervention procedures and invasive coronary bypass surgery. The comment below is from one of my very senior colleagues. The ABS technology offers for the first time an elegant approach that leads to 100% coverage of the complex bifurcation morphology with an easy-to-use system. The easy-to-use system is a very important part of this, in that our technology, in a way, is an equalizer, if you will. What happens with coronary bifurcations now, these patients are referred to tertiary centers or to physicians who are adept at doing coronary bifurcations. As such, people in smaller towns or don't have access to the more experienced, skillful interventional cardiologists tend to be undertreated, treated poorly, or end up having their chest cracked open for bypass surgery because that's the best they could do in that community. Our technology puts all of that away. If I could have the next one, please. So we have a highly differentiated technology which addresses 20% of all percutaneous interventions, of all coronary angioplasties. And as it turns out, about 1/3 of coronary bypass surgery now happens to be for large vessel bifurcations, which, for a lack of a better way of doing it, which is reliable, we still have to open the chest and have bypass surgery. We're pretty far along. We've had a little more than $30 million invested to date with a Series E, which we closed a couple of years ago. As a matter of fact, in our Series E, Cedars-Sinai is one of our investors. So is Abiomed, which is now a Johnson & Johnson company. Things are rapidly evolving for us. We have 75 issued patents now, and a bunch of other patents in a variety of stages pending, multiple freedom to operate. We did a first-in-man very early on in a multi-center trial between Brazil, India, and Venezuela, which we published a couple of years ago. From then on, we've moved to make the device even easier to use and have a smaller profile so it can be used through the radial artery. We had some barriers to entry to some components of our technology, which was not key for us. But one component of our technology is a drug that has to be placed on a stent, and drugs were all proprietary. Those patents have expired, and that's why we've moved forward. We have a fully developed product with a clearly defined regulatory pathway. We've been bestowed the breakthrough device designation by the FDA a couple of months ago, which we're very thrilled about. The FDA recognized the unmet clinical need in that there is no dedicated bifurcation technology addressing this problem. So we're very excited about our breakthrough device designation. We've developed a platform technology. We have developed a technology which allows stenting of bifurcations in a way that's not been possible before. That's part of the reason we have so many patents is because we've thought about it completely differently. And because it's completely different, there's so many new aspects of it. And as such, we have 29 US patents and a whole bunch of other totaling about 75 patents. You can imagine coronary disease is very common. A fifth of it is still quite a bit, is about 1.6 million procedures globally. And our estimated market is about a $5 billion market with no player, no dedicated player in the market. If I could have the next one, please. So we make a procedure which is risky, not necessarily optimal, simpler, faster, more effective, with a lower risk. And in the process, we save money also because there's less number of catheters, wires, other equipment, fluoroscopy, radiation, contrast, resources of the cath lab required because we do it much faster. The unique nature of our platform generates a number of significant benefits, including the overall health economics and improved outcomes. Please, next one. We've been through this for some time. As I said, we're pretty far along. We've had many milestones. We're done with our research and development. The device is fully spec'd in every aspect. We did our early bench and animal testings actually at the vivarium at Cedars-Sinai. We published those. We then moved into a first-in-man outside the United States with 10 patients, which we also published. I will allude to briefly later. We then transitioned into more of a physical presence where we have our own clean room for the final assembly in Livermore, about 45 minutes from here. Next slide, please. Next. So I'm going to spend about 30 seconds on this slide. On the left panel, you see a relatively complex algorithm for treating coronary bifurcations. This algorithm I've taken from the Journal of American College of Cardiology a couple of years ago, and the title is not my title, and it says Current Simplified Approach to the Treatment of Bifurcation Lesions. And this is the simplest we can get it currently, and which is not terribly simple. We go from that algorithm to our technology, which is the right side of the algorithm. You see any bifurcation, there is one device that you use, and if you need an additional stent, you put a very simple additional stent, and it's the end of the procedure. This is why one reason we got the breakthrough device designation by the FDA. If I can have the next slide.
You don't have a video of this, do you?
We do. I don't know how well it plays on yours, but if you go on YouTube, I can show it to you. Please.
It's amazing to see the left to the right. What does it mean for the patient?
Good question. So we address two general populations: a population that currently undergoes percutaneous interventions, which is much less invasive than bypass surgery. So in those people, the chances of coming back are about a fourth, as we're projecting, because the restenosis is at least 4 times higher than non-bifurcations in bifurcation. The chances of having a complication is much, much less also. So having a small heart attack is much less because frequently, not infrequently, we may lose a side branch when we use bifurcations now. Our technology obviates that. So that's good for the patient. And in case of the large vessel bifurcations, we don't take chances because those complications can be fatal. We send those people to open heart surgery. The comparison there is very simple. Is a patient that stays in the hospital 5 or 6 days, doesn't go back to work for a month versus getting a procedure which takes about a half hour through the radial artery and goes home the same day and can go back to work the day after. So these are dramatic comparisons. Coronary bifurcation disease is one of the last frontiers of treating coronaries percutaneously, because almost everything else we treat percutaneously with very good, reasonable long-term results.
This is fascinating, but we have 5 minutes left. So
that includes the Q&A. Okay, so here we don't need to spend that much time here. This is one aspect of I'm saying what we're making it simple. The slide that I showed you was the slide on the decision-making on what to do with the bifurcation. And that's why it's the purview of the experts. That's why people perhaps from the lower socioeconomic classes who don't have access to the experts don't get treated as well. So it's complex in decision-making on what to do, but the techniques that are currently used are also very complex. That's one technique, which is the simplest technique on the left panel, which requires 8 steps versus what we do, which requires 4 steps and is much more reliable. Next. This is the animation that's not going to play in PDF. Next, please. And I think it takes too long for 5 minutes. We have an extensive intellectual property and freedom to operate. We don't need to belabor it. If I could have the next one, please. And we address every scenario in bifurcations. One of the issues with bifurcations is the vessels come at different sizes, different angles. Plaque can be in different locations. We have a modular system, and that's why we call it the platform technology, which addresses all variables in bifurcation disease. Next, please. The most logical question is, this is such a common issue, how come there has not been a solution? There are multiple players that have come. Several billion dollars have been spent in the last 30 years as our field has come into existence. And this table summarizes the issues of what has been with every technology that has come and gone. And that's why there is no technology on the market addressing bifurcation disease. Next, please. Very large market for coronary angioplasty for bifurcation disease is about a $5 billion market. The numbers are there. Next, please. Next. This is our first in man in 10 patients. The results were extremely encouraging, and that's why we have moved forward with a very crude first generation device. We expect to do even better now. Next, please. Next. Okay, so just as an example, it's very hard perhaps to project. I'm not sure how well you see bifurcation. So these, we're talking about 2-3 millimeter vessels. Residual narrowings are very unforgiving. These are vessels that feed the heart muscle. We don't want to have any residual narrowing. We also don't want to have any parts of the stent hanging out. This is one example of what happens from the lesion above to the left, to the right. The next one. Again, I mean, this one is a little easier to see because it's more magnified. If you go back, they would see it, but you don't have to. So on the left, you see those vessels are hanging by a hair, and on the right, you see both of them are completely open. Next shows where we are, the next slide in our process. We are about to submit our final information to the FDA. If I could have the next slide, please. And we expect to start the first phase of our US pivotal trial towards the end of this year. Next, please. Next. We have gotten to this stage with only spending about $30 million, which is very, very unusual. It's about perhaps a third of what a similar company would have spent because of an experienced team we have. My co-founder that happens to be here is a veteran of the industry. This is his 11th startup, and we have used every efficiency and every relationship we have. Our board consists of a couple of insiders, a couple of the investors, Abiomed, which is now a J&J company, representative from Cedars-Sinai, and an outside, again, a veteran of the industry. Next, please. We have our scientific advisory board is who is who in our field. Next, please. Next, I don't think we need to belabor that either for the sake of time. So as we've done our Series A, we are now in the beginning stages of our Series B, where what we are offering is a safe note for $15 million. We've raised 8 of the $15 million. And we're knocking on doors for the next 7, and that's part of the reason we're here. Next, please. This is a summary. We've raised a total of $30 million and spent it to get to the stage we are now. We're addressing a very large market of $5 billion plus with no player. We're very well protected in our patent portfolio. Our device is fully spec'd. The breakthrough device designation expedites our regulatory process, which makes it much more efficient. And we have institutional board members, which speaks of the due diligence we've had to go through to get here. Thank you.
You're gonna be at dinner. I've got lots of questions for you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks so much. I mean, it's a huge breakthrough. I'm sorry we only got 15 minutes.
All
for it,
good.
but it is what it is. And we'll look at that link to the video, see how
We'll send it to you.
works. And so I guess my only question is, so it's a stent, does it push the blockage to the sides of the walls, or does it
So-
solve them or pull them
Yeah,
back? Or-
yeah, excellent question. So there is a stent, which is a component of our technology. What people have done over the years, they have come up with very fancy stents. And the analogy I give people is a fancy stent alone is not enough, because it's about how you put the stent there to completely scaffold where you need to without any part of the stents hanging in the lumen, which can cause thrombosis. The analogy I give is like saying we invented what's been done in the past. You made an amazing lunar landing module, which does soil analysis, atmospheric analysis, can say if there's life there, but we can't put it where we need to put it. And that's why people have been unsuccessful. They're all about the delivery system and getting it there correctly.
Okay. Well, listen, thanks so much, Mehran. It's excellent. Love this stuff.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.